All right, Craig, here's another question for you. It's about the boar hair brush. You've been helping people educate them about the concept of seasoning your boar hair brush. For most people, they probably never even heard of that before. So help explain what seasoning your boar hair brush means.
Okay. You know, this is something that comes up through, I'd say lab testing, but this is something that is a discovery that comes up. There are guys out there that know these things, but we want to kind of bring the education to the masses and help you understand the kind of more the science behind how things work.
And the first-time users.
Let's
get them up to speed faster.
Exactly. So we've talked a little bit about the reason why we really need to have a 100% genuine boar hair brush that's high quality, okay, that's designed with a very tight nap and something that has a bristle depth that is conducive to maximum performance when we brush our beard.
Step one, you need a good boar brush.
Step one, you need a good boar brush.
That's a given.
Now, the boar brush that you get, once you start using it, once you start putting your oils on, you start brushing through, those bristles are going to act just like your beard is going to act when oil is applied. They're going to start taking up, absorbing that oil. And we call that seasoning.
Seasoning, okay? That's the seasoning.
So in the same way that we season our beard with oil, and we strengthen it and condition it over time through using these microparticle oils, is we're going to do the same thing with the bristles in our brush. Okay? Now, here's the interesting thing. When we tested these bristles in our lab, now we've got a very high quality brush here, but with a lot of bristles. But when we tested this particular brush absorbed 10 milliliters of oil on its own. That's a third of a bottle of product.
Okay. Over time.
Okay. Now, well, over time, if you were to apply it over time, we applied it and we applied it and we applied it and we applied it until pretty much everything almost dried up. And we were able to get 10 milliliters of oil into this brush. Okay. The reason that's important that I say that is because if you take a $18 bottle of oil and divide that by 3, that's money that is you're just putting that into your brush that you're seasoning that out, okay? So if you put that oil on, you can actually have a reduced amount of oil at the end of the month if you buy a 1 month supply with an unseasoned brush, because that brush will take up about 10 milliliters of that oil. Now it'll help redeposit that back on your beard as you comb day by day by day, okay? But what we did was we went ahead and we started pre-seasoning our bristles. And we have guys that, you know, just want a brush and they want to do it themselves, and that's great. We're going to have a pre-seasoning kit that's going to go out with unseasoned brushes so that they can do it themselves, or they can just get it from us seasoned. And so we go through the process of actually seasoning the brush. I know it sounds kind of quirky.
It's a new concept.
It is. It sounds a little bit like voodoo science, you know, and I would agree that it just sounds a little bit snake oily. But it's true. If you take and did what we did in our lab, you would find that these bristles take up and absorb that oil. And it changes the entire look of the bristle.
So do you want your brush seasoned?
You do want your brush seasoned.
It actually gives you a better experience using the brush.
Absolutely phenomenal. There's absolutely no comparison between an unseasoned brush and a seasoned brush.
Okay, so...
And I can just tell you that from experience.
So one, it will, if somebody starts off with an unseasoned brush, you're expected to use more oil because some of it's going to stay on the brush over time, right? 2, so I got 2 more questions for you. Do you ever wash the brush? Are you wanting to wash the brush? Doesn't sound like you do.
No, you never wash the brush. You never take out of the brush. The only thing that I do once in a while is your brush will pick up some, we call them fallen soldiers. And I hate to even use that term because I don't want to make light of that issue, but we're going to use some beard, we're going to lose some beard hair. That's just the fact of life, you know. And so it's going to end up in your brush. Okay, so you just take your brush, put it over your garbage can or over the sink, whatever, and just kind of gently get those out of there. But I wouldn't recommend washing out the brush. If you want to, you can go ahead and wash it out because those oils won't, they won't come out of those bristles once they're seasoned, once they're in there. So you could run it underneath the water and go on and do your thing.
Okay, but then also, some customers like to use multiple oils.
Right.
And so at that point, do you have to have more than one brush? It sounds like you would.
It depends on how far you want to go as far as a beard connoisseur or somebody who wants maximum performance out of their brush. If you're on a budget, one brush seasoned with our Poseidon oil is absolutely perfect. And that's how we season our brushes. Okay? We season every brush with Poseidon growth oil. That's the best oil to season these bristles with.
Okay.
Beyond any oil that we have, beyond any oil that's out there, we pre-season it with that. So if you order up a pre-seasoned brush, and in one of our bundles that has Caribbean Voyage, the brush you're going to get is pre-seasoned with Poseidon. Okay? And the reason for that is because of how our components work on those bristles. Okay? And that's as far as we've tested. With that being said, if you're on a budget, that's the way you would go. If you want us to pre-season or brush, or if you want to do it yourself, because you can take and do this yourself at home, you might want to have a brush for each one of your oils, because as these bristles become seasoned with that particular component, right, that particular formula, then every time you do your beard oil routine and then comb, you're actually helping move all that oil all around your beard, even to the depth down to your skin, right?
Yeah.
Down to the area where we want it to start working.
And that's an important part. So the brush actually helps the oil get deeper into your beard. So maybe some people who just use their fingers might not be doing as good of a job because of the size of your fingers versus the size of those bristles.
It can help wrap a hair shaft. It can almost wrap that hair shaft from the epidermis all the way out to the tip, and wrap that in oil if you use the proper brush, a seasoned brush. And your brush will become seasoned over time, as we've talked about. But a pre-seasoned brush will absolutely just deliver all that nutrient everywhere that you want.
And that's the important fact, because I think a lot of people don't use brushes yet, and maybe they don't know why they should be.
Right.
And so I think that's another reason why they should be using a beard brush as well.
Yep, you've got to use a quality brush. We always say this: use quality. You'll never regret having quality. And there's guys that use combs. There's guys that use brushes. I personally have a routine where I use the brush. I season my brushes. I season them for the oil that I want to use for that day.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got an incredible new beard wax coming that I would even suggest that we season it for the beard wax, and then you just use that brush when you apply your beard wax, and use a different brush for when you apply your oils. So yeah, it's a great step. You'll have no idea how well it'll perform until you actually do it. And like I said, I know it's a little bit funny to think about, but it's actually true. And we've actually taken pictures of the before and afters, and it's night and day. The bristles change when they're seasoned.
Yeah.
And so if you can spend an extra couple of bucks, whatever it is, get yourself a pre-seasoned brush that we do at our lab, and you'll enjoy it.
So seasoned boar hair beard brushes. I think that's a new concept for a lot of people, even people who've been doing beard oil for a long time.
Right.
Have been seasoning their brush, but probably never even knew it or the effects of it. And so now we're trying to help educate those people who are just starting off, as well as maybe help people who are doing it one way and help them do it a little bit better. So
right.
There you have it.
And I'll add one thing to conclude, and I think this is really important. This goes in a little bit back to the science we talked about. It is critical, in our opinion, at our lab, to not have a brush seasoned with oils that create a residue, like the inferior stuff that we
like
test
some
all
of the
the
other
time.
oils that have different type of carrier oil.
Right, because if you take that brush and then start using one of, like Poseidon, for example, you got to go through that whole process again, and now you have a big, messy, gooey brush that you don't want. So if you're going to start using Poseidon for the first time, you want to use that with your brush.
A new brush.
A new brush. And if you're going to start using it, throw away your old brush.
Yeah.
Throw away your old brush so that you don't have to go through this whole process all over again.
That makes sense. I never thought of it. All right, well, there you go. Hope that helps season your boar hair brushes. And if you have more beard questions, give us a shout over at legendsbeard.com.